Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Live from Park City, Utah. We have some Chaverim over here. I'm going to spin the camera around for a second. Let me see what I see over here. Oh, it's a little bit. That's Rabbi Zupnik. We have Igor, right? No, time. That's Igor. And then we have, what's your name?
Moshe Green.
And that's your son? Shalom Aleichem. All right, we're coming back around. So first of all, big shkoyach to, what's your first name, Rabbi Zupnik? I met him yesterday in Shul and I did my pitch like I do whoever I meet. And he told me that he learns Be'iyun. And he's serious. And I met a bunch of serious guys, Be'iyun. But I said, at the end of the day, it's not every day. And he's kind of masking. So he came to check it out. And he's good friends with Mark Ashkenazi. So you never know. Maybe you'll do both. Hey, it's not a stira. You can do it while you're driving, It's just videos. Really? I gotta say this. I met a very interesting guy in Shul. His name is Nathan Zucker. I don't want to forget this. He's a pilot for Delta. And he sent an email a few years ago, and I forgot about it. He says he's been doing the daf for 6 years, mostly with us. And listen to this, Rabbi, you're not going to believe this. Every single time he flies out of JFK or Newark or some really Jewish place, and there's Yidden on the flight, part of his announcement, he sticks in what daf it is. And when there's a siyum or something, he says Mazel Tov, and then the siyum was Zvachim. And he says a guy just came over to him as they were coming off the plane. He says, I don't do Daf Yomi, but because you announced that, I'm going to try Daf Yomi now. So he recruited somebody. It's amazing. A Delta airline pilot, Nathan Zucker. Waiting for some Gishmaki emails. I said, I want to hear his announcement. He said he'll send it in. Okay, B'ezrat Hashem. A dozen guys joined tonight at the launch of the Cedar Hirsch Shear Watch. A dozen guys in Cedar Hirsch, Givaldik, Mr. Kayach. So we have an update. This guy was spotted in a grocery store this Friday, and he said over a story here. This is the continuation of the story. Let me just show you.
Get the fuck here, Staten Island Hospital, live. We have Mendy. Good update for MDY. What's going on?
Mazel Tov. It's a girl.
It's a girl. So we have to clarify. Mendy's wife actually sent him to get some goodies for Shabbos.
I give him a hard time because every Shabbos his wife is in the living room and he was in the grocery store. But his wife sent him out.
Look at this.
Yeah, but, he found my number. It was easy for him to find my number. Reb Eli, what did he say in the English here?
I didn't see him.
You didn't see him on Shabbos. Yeah. He was able to find me 2 minutes. Reb Eli couldn't find me. See what's
Not only that, I went over to them in their supermarket and I said, were you at the Shabbaton?
100%.
And I said, I wish I could come, but my wife is 9 months pregnant.
So here we are. Here's the update for the entire Staten Island community. Look not Staten Island, the entire MDY community.
Look at it.
He saw me in the grocery, saw MDY merch, and he spotted me right away.
Yeah.
Mazel Tov. May have a lot of nachas.
Amazing.
Keep daffing.
And by the way, I have one boy, 9 years ago. And
You're ruining the story.
That's
what Rebelli would say.
No, it's good. It's still a good story.
It took us 9 years to have the second
Baruch
baby.
Hashem.
Baruch
With a
Hashem.
daf.
Yes.
New life.
Like I said, fill masechtas and you'll get whatever you want.
Amazing.
Okay, so he said that he didn't have kids for 9 years, and then he learned 2 Masechtas, and then he had a girl. Givaldik. Okay, what else do we have here? This is the Cedars Live. Oh, so first of all, since we went to Toronto this past Tuesday, 120 people joined up in Toronto. And let me just read this. This is from Gershi Rose. I'll keep it short. You mentioned aiming for 2,000 people joining the Masechta. That was too low. We're already around 3,500 people. Of those who registered, and tonight I personally hit my target of 20. So Gershi Rose brought 20 people to the shir, and he says we're about 3,500 people that joined Menachos, which is crazy. It used to be that people joined in the beginning of Shas, Menachos. Who wants to join during Menachos? Cannot compete with Shalom Rand or Pinzel, but the world's genuinely on fire about MDY. I've never seen anything like this in a very positive way. I think it's now clear how critical the big statuses are for recruitment by the short clip platforms, which we saw by the Shabbaton and beyond. It took 3 to 4 years of us consistently pumping short clips, but something really clicked this weekend. But you inviting Yoelish Feisen, Eli Geller, Ari Chaimowitz, and the rest, that's the way forward. With that comes, I can't read because I gave you the big screen. I had a dine in London, call me today, that perhaps, thank you. A small VAD be set up to review certain borderline clips. That said, the good news and the bad news are brilliant for MDY's growth. All exposures bring more people close to Torah. Let's keep it pumping, work together as a team, and bring even more people to Torah. I truly believe we're not far from the hundreds of thousands. With much admiration, I appreciate it. Atzlacha, good Shabbos, Gershi Rose. Yeah, it was one of these weeks that I got a lot of hate mail, a lot of stuff. The last video that we showed on Mesechtes Zvachim was a rap video. I think people loved it. They watched it a lot of times, but there's a lot of people that were offended by it because it was rap. To me personally, I didn't know that there's even an issue with rap, but I found out later that a lot of people are very anti-rap. Even if Nissan Black sings a song about the Rebbeinu Shleilim and rap, they won't listen to it. It's like rap is also why I have no clue. One day somebody will explain it to me. Like why is that different than a Morchem David or Shweki song, which is also completely Goyish or whatever, taken from the Goyim. But okay, a good kasha. A lot of hate. This week was, whew, it was like 3 different things. I said something about Magid Shurim. What else? Oh, the snowboarding video. Also a lot of hate. How could you learn Torah while you're snowboarding? It's usher, it's not Torah. Okay. Rabbi said the official edition of NDY Shas, the Masechta by Iranian Levi families, Perik, Shani Modibelsky and family, the Daf by Rabbi Yaakov Bleich in memory of my father, Olav Shalom Ruvain, Ben Rabbi Ephraim Fischel Bleich, Zichron Levrach, and Iftar Chafei Av, Tashem Pehei. That's the individual Daf. Rabbi Bleich was the Balkaira at the Shabbaton, Yishikoyach Gadol. The Masechta is sponsored by David Salomon, dedicated in memory of Avi Moiri. So here, I'm pausing here. I know I could go fly through it. David Salomon brought 50 people to the Daf, and he has now a group of 50 people with accountability. So done. People write in that they finished the Daf. Don't just join and then fall off. Join and somebody's there to make sure you don't fall. Reb Shmuel Baruch ben Reb Chaim Tzvi Dov Zuchron Levracha. The Masechta sponsored Joel Gedalius, Lila Nishmas, my father Jack Gedalius, anonymous Atzal Baruchnis of Vigashmis, the Palachik family foundation, Zech Nishmas, Rav Agor Reb Shlomo Palachik, the Meitzitzer Ilui, Atavan Velazhin, Reb Chaim Brisker, and one of the first Rosh Yeshiva in America. Masechta sponsored anonymous Refor Shlomo Moshe Ben Nizah. Anonymous for complete Refor Shlomo and Arichas Yom Leah Bas Esther, Yisrael Malki, Tovik Taris Pichel Malfi Zav Kesef. We're so proud of you, Yaakov Mordechai. Keep steiging. In case you don't know, each one of these is a $9,000 sponsorship. And I think there's 8 or 9 of them. Send them Gross family, Canby Island, UK, in honor of Rebbe Eli, who changed my meaning of life. Pliny Almighty, Yossi, Mark, and Benny, and all, Doiskim Mitzorchi, MDY, Akash Baruch Shalom Scharam. Monthly sponsors: Ari Simon, Refor Shlema, Avi Mori, Baruch Ben Miriam, Jamie Azulai, Refor Shlema, Esther Bas Luna, Esther Walkenstein, Bazdov, my husband Kalman Natana Walkenstein on his 40th birthday. Anonymous, Brachad B'lidai, Baruch Tzvinism Ben Shoshana Lev, Yehuda B'Yom B'Chav. Anonymous, Refor Shlema, Naftali Harris Ben Henileah, Hidden Tzaddik in our generation. Anonymous, in memory of Mazel Bat Leah, Besanada, and his Skia. Anonymous, the schus of verdict that is good and open and revealed way for Yosef Mordechai ben Bat Leah. Daily sponsors: family Schwimmer in honor of our dear brother-in-law, Rabbi Avram Dov. Bornstein finishing Shas, Mazel Tov. Shmuel Dovebaum in memory of Zaidi, Yaakov Yitzchak ben Elimelech. Innovations LLC in honor of all the haters. Makes me want to give more and help MDY grow. Oh, how did you know there's haters? Leilin Shmas Nachman Mechayim on the 17th yard side dedicated by his son Noam Fix and family. Shkoyach Noam. Sruli Pesach. Thank you to Rebelli and the team for an incredible Shabbaton. The Achdos singing speeches were powerful and energizing, true fuel for the year ahead. It's really Pesach. NDY Art Week. Yoshi Weiss, that's our big artist. He's donating back because Mati Belsky gave him, I forgot, $500 or $1,000, so he gave it right back to MDY in honor of Mati Belsky for continuing Hatzlacha and great English AI videos, because Mati is a big advocate. He constantly says that our videos that are in Hebrew are not good. We have to have some English subtitles, etc. So, Be'ez Hashem. The month. Yosef Chai, sorry for Parnas Berevach, for Shlemi Yonah Tanaitim Ben B'Shev Bracha, L'Refua Shlema Mordechai Ben Esther, L'Force Ayel Daniel Zev Ben Ayelet Esther. Rabbi say, here we go. Really holding on the bottom of that Vavam and Beis Maskif. Rabbi say, so gewaltige things happen when you're in Chutz La'aretz by yourself in Park City, and I tried to pull a fast one, but it didn't work. Started the shir at Maskif, which is like 5 lines from the bottom. But we're going to patch in now, and I hope just leave these words also. So the patch in, we actually only got to, because it was Erev Shabbos, it was right before Shabbos, stopped at Ela Taima Dashmin and Rav. So that is a 15-line skip, which never happened, but it's Givaldic. So it goes like this. Ela Taima Dashmin and Rav. So we're talking about like 20 lines from the bottom. Again, Rav is the one who says that if a Yisrael does kmitza, he takes, this is the bowl of flour. If a Yisrael takes the 3 fingers worth from this bowl, it's no good. But if he puts it back into the bowl, it's good. The Mishnah mentions a whole list of other people. You have a Einen, you have a Mechusik Kapara, you have a Tful Yoim, etc., etc. So says the Gemara, Elotai Medashmin Rav. It's because Rav said that you can put it back in. I would think that the only thing you can put back in is if you do it with your left hand. But do your left hand, you can put it back in and start over again. But what if a Yisrael does it? What if a Naina does it? You can't. That's what I would think. But Tanya, but how could that be? It's not true. Bemseira says the whole list is all kosher if you put it back in. Vitanya, and another thing, it says v'kamatz misham. It says in the pasuk v'kamatz misham, from there. From the place that the feet of the Yisraelim stand. If you messed up, you did it with your left hand, put it back in, start over with the right. So he learns it differently. From the same bowl that you did kmitza with your left, do it over again. It's not a problem. Bekiv in the cross stomach sivba, mali small, mali shar psulim. So it's obvious that the pasuk is not referring only to the left hand versus the right. The pasuk could be talking about a Yisrael and an Ayin and a Tfil Yom and Chuzuk Kippurim. And Rav. So what's Rav coming to tell us? Chomatz vafilu kiddush. When can you return it? In all situations, even if you did the kmitza and put it into the smaller second vessel, which gives gedusha to that kmitza. You did kmitza with your right hand. Well, you're Yisrael. You did kmitza with your right hand. Put it into the small vessel. It becomes kaddish. I could take that, dump it back into the original bowl, and start all over again. It's a big chiddush. And this comes to say differently, to exclude these Tanoim that say the Sanya Rabbi Yossi ben Yason, Rabbi Yehuda Nachtim Amru, Rabbi Yossi, the son of Yossi ben Yason, and Rabbi Yehuda Nachtim say, by the way, Rabbi Yehuda Nachtim, I heard once that he's not pshat that he's a baker. Pshat is that his Torah was so beautiful, like fresh bagels, but he wasn't necessarily a baker. They say differently when we just said. We just said that even if it goes into a second kli, you can still use it. No. When can you use the original kmitza? Is only if you didn't put it in a second kli. Like kiddush. Ava kiddush, but if you put it in a second kli, pasal, that's too late. You can't do anything over. And some say komatzin kiddush loy. Dafka, if you did that in Rav, komatzin kiddush loy. Not like we said before that if you put it in a kli, that it's okay. Rav said no. If you put it in a kli, it's not good. Keman kanetanoy, and he fits right in with Yossi, Reb Yossi ben Yassam, Reb Yehuda Nachtoim. They go hand in hand. That you could reuse the kmitza if you don't put it into the klishars. You just put it directly back into the original bowl. But if you put it into a second bowl, it becomes pasul. Keman kanetanoy lafuki b'tanakama. And now we're going to patch in from Maskif Law of Nachman. We have Rabbi Zupnik here. We have a bunch of people that started today, I'm sure. Out of 3,500 people, some are starting today for the very first time. What is Kmitza? So you're able to bring, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, you're able to bring a gift. Usually it's a gift to Rebbeinu Shalom. You put it on the Mizbech. It's made out of flour. Sometimes you add a little oil, you add a little frankincense, levina. Sometimes it's plain, it's just flour. The procedure is as follows. Let me just show you. Here it goes. This is an older AI video. It gets better. We have an Oive. I don't like that. I'm just muted. No, I think he's done speaking. Hey, how are you? Grab a seat. Shavua Tov. Here, you have a sefer. Over, no, that's not it. Here, passing both of those. You're probably going to want to see the screen. So, what you saw over here, you might have been distracted for a second, but basically, the kohen sticks his hand into the flour, and with his three fingers, he grabs flour. That's a mincha. Then, whatever you have to add, you add. Sometimes you put the oil on the bottom, put the flour on top, then more oil, then the frankincense. But this right over here, these three fingers worth, that is the kmitza, that goes onto the mizbeach. That is the what you maktir, that's the carbon. The rest, the kohen gets to eat afterwards. Okay. So knowing that, Rav says, that's like 10 lines from the top. Rav says that if a Yisrael does the kmitza, it has to be done by a kohen, but let's say Yisrael jumped in and he did the kmitza, then you just return it right back to the bowl. You put the kmitza right back to the bowl. So we had a machlokes exactly what's going on here. What happens if he doesn't put it in the bowl? He puts it in the second bowl. Now, I don't know if you noticed. Here, let's go back over here. Okay, you see now he's taking the kmitza. What does he do with it? He puts it into a second vessel. It's in one klisharis. This is the first vessel has gedusha, and then he takes the three fingers worth and he puts it into a second vessel. So there's a machlokes. Once you put it into the second vessel, can you return it to the first one? Here, this is our. I don't want to really get dirty here, but that. Whoa, it's heavy. We're going to be using this soon. Once you take the kmitza from here, Rav says, even if Yisrael takes it and he messes up, you can put it right back and then let the kohen start all over again. But if you put it into the second smaller vessel, you can't do that. That's one shita. So now we're holding 5 lines from the bottom. The vavam in the base. Rav Nachman. What exactly do they hold? When the Yisrael takes the 3 fingers worth, that's considered one of the 4 essential avodas. Like when you shech the carbon in the base of Mikdash, the shchita, kabbalah, haylacha, zrika. It's the essential avodas that a kohen does. What about the kmitza? If you hold that putting your hand in and grabbing 3 fingers is part of the avodah, so who cares if you put into another kli or not? Oh, correct. Thank you. Well, I was giving shir here without people, and I skipped around, and it wasn't good. Then I had to go back and fix it. So thank you. If it's considered an avodah, so what difference is it if you put into a kli or not? By him putting his hand into the kli and going like this, he did an avodah, and it should be possible. And if it doesn't count for anything, so then he dumps it into a second vessel. So what good is it? Why is that a problem? Why would you say that putting into a second kli ruins it? In fact, it is considered avodah. So he says something very interesting, that it's a combination. It's not a complete avodah. It's let's say 50%. By you putting your hand in and grabbing it is 50%. The second part is when you put it into the kli. That's the second 50%. So it is an avodah, but it's not a complete avodah. Therefore, when you by Yisrael putting his hand in, he did 50%. It's not possible yet. But when he dumps it into the second kli, then he finishes it off. Boom. Then it becomes a complete avodah. Then it becomes possible. You can't use it again. Yachis, as the Gemara, afilu lo kiddush. V'chim yahadir le lekoymes top of Zayin Amud Aleph. V'chim yahadir le lekoymes leduchtei ligdosh. Here, let's say he takes flour from here. This is a golden vessel. This has gedusha. This is a klisharis. So he goes in and he takes that amount. He did 50% of avodah. Then he goes, puts it right back to where he started. We said we could use it. How could he use it? This is a klisharis. By him putting it back in here, it was mekadesh it. He gave it gedusha, and now he ruined it. So there's an interesting taisus here, just because we do all taisusin. especially when there are only two lines, like this one right over here. So Taisa says, not this one. Where was it? No. Where did I put it? Over here. The other guys that do they're sleeping now. It's in Israel, so I had to do it myself. It's usually in a nice box, whatever. So Taisus asks, when you put it back in here, where does it fall? It falls on top of the flour. So if it falls back on the flour, how could it have Kedusha? In order for it to have Kedusha, it has to fall into the vessel. It didn't fall into the vessel, fell into the other flour. So Taisus says that's the famous concept of min b'mino and echaisis, just throwing it out there. When you have two items that are the same, the one are the same, it's flour and flour, then there's no chatzitza. So it's as if when you put the kmitza back in the bowl on top of flour, it's as if it hit the bottom of the kli because the flour that it fell on is not going to provide a barrier, separation between the kli and that. I just thought it's an interesting taisvis. Yeah.
The kmitza that he in the second kli.
Yeah.
Does that get cooked or just thrown on the fire?
No, they throw it directly in the fire as is. Usually with other stuff in it, with levina, with the frankincense, etc. So the question is, let's go back to the question to understand the answer. The question is, when the Yisrael, we're talking about a guy who's puzzled. It's a Yisrael or a person that lost a close relative that day, an Einan, a Tful Yom, Chuzak Kippurim, all these people that are puzzled doing the Avodah, they put their hand in, and then Rav says, just put it back and start over. You don't have to throw out all the flour, Why? When you put it back in, you made it Kaddish, it should be no good. When you put it in, you didn't have intent to have the Klisharis make it Kaddish. You have to have intent. Everything in Judaism is in the mind. Everything. When you do a mitzvah, you have to think. If you don't think, no good. You could think, you could have the same action, take the same thing. If you thought one way, it's good, the other way not. Over here also, you put it back into the kli. If you don't have that intent that I want it to be kaddish, it doesn't happen. Hamadas mikachin. So what do you tell me? But if you did have intent that it should be kaddish, it would become kaddish. But if so, how come it is? Rish Lakish once asked Rabbi Yochanan, can a klisharis take something that's puzzle and make it kaddish so you can put it on the mizbeach? Rabbi Yochanan told Rish Lakish that it doesn't make kedusha. Why not? Over here you say that by putting in this non-good kmitza that was done by Yisrael, it makes it kaddish if you had the right intent. So he says, you have to make a distinction. What Rabbi Yochanan was saying is that it's not kaddish enough to put it on the mizbeach, but it is kaddish enough to make it pasul. Rav Amim Ramar, kigon shechziroi lebisa gedusha. Oh, so you know what? Let me just show you what Yoshi did. Here's a bisa gedusha. You guys see it? Bisa gedusha, meaning it's overflowing. There's a big heap over there. And therefore what? That's why there's no Kedusha, because it's outside of the Kli. The Kli, in order for a Kli to make it Kaddish, it has to be within the rim. It can't be above the rim. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, how did he do Kmitza? He took Kmitza from the big heap, which is not in a Kli, which is not a good Kmitza. Ella, so we have to retract a little bit. What happened was he put it back and it was very full, like this. It was all the way to the top. Okay. Vikiv in the comments lay of Leguma. But wait a minute. If it was all the way to the top, by him, here, I'm going to demonstrate. Better not get on my tie and suit. Okay, so this is the flour, yeah? He puts his hand in like this, straight in, and takes 3 fingers worth, like that. So what happened? You guys see the hole? So there's a hole. So when he puts it back in, he put it right back into the hole. So it's great. Then it's in the kli. It has to be below the rim. So you're telling me, oh, it's not below the rim because it's very full. Okay, but when he did his kmitza, he went like this. He made a giant hole. And then when he put it back, Rav said, put it back. So he puts it right back into the hole. So what does Gemara answer? Oh, here's a hole. Where it says, in the comments, he made a big hole. He put it right back into the hole. I got to move this. Oh, says the Gemara. So the Gemara says, look, he put it right over here on the side. Oh, you see? This is no good because this is above the rim. Yeah? He didn't put it in the hole. We're talking about that he took out, the kmitza was good. Why? Because it was level. He did a good kmitza, but he didn't put it back in the hole. If he put it back in the hole, it wouldn't be a problem, it would be kaddish. The problem is that he put it back on top. And then what? I'm a little nervous to do it. I'm going to do it for the share. If it falls on me, it's great. The Gemara says he did like this, and he shook it up. You see, now it went below the rim, sort of, and that's okay. Now, logically speaking, what would you say? By him shaking it like this, did he put it back in the hole, or it happened by itself? What do you say? He shook it up and it went into the hole. I would think also it's his ma'asiyad, but Gemara says no. Look what the Gemara says. The Gemara uses very strong language. The nasa kimi shechziro yakoif. It's as if a monkey put it back. Here we actually have a little bit of a thing, nothing major. In other words, you didn't put the flour into the hole. You shook it like this, and it kind of, it's like an after effect. I don't exactly understand the svara, I have to tell you the truth, but that's what Gemara says. You ever think about it? How come monkeys are very talented, right? But they never invented anything. And zero. Why? No, seriously. What's the reason? The reason is because they don't give from generation to generation. Each one is on his own. Everything that we invented, we build up from previous generations. Right? It's not like somebody just came and invented. You know what I mean? I think that's the reason. Monkeys, just whatever they invent, it's for them, and then they go on. They don't give it to the next. Says Gemara, I have a question. It's actually a proof, not a question. What are you asking me? You're saying when you take that mincha with your fingers and you put it back in, the kli should make it kaddish on the spot and actually ruin it. Why? Because I'm a Yisrael, I'm not a kohen, I have no right to take the kmitza. By me putting it back in here, it should be ruined because the fact is this kli is a kli sharis, it's a golden kli, it's a vessel of the Beis Hamikdash, has kedusha, and anything you put in it becomes kaddish. So me, the Yisrael, I put it back in, it becomes kaddish, it should ruin it. So he says, oh, I have a chap. Maybe this vessel is on a table. It's on the floor. A kohen is not holding it. And I put it back in, so it didn't have any kedusha. Elamai, you see, from the fact that the Gemara didn't answer that that's not a problem. That this vessel doesn't need to be held. You prove from here, you could do kmitza from a kohen doesn't have to hold it. That's what he holds. You actually touched upon a question that we had. This is like an agadda. We're going into a story here. It's almost like ADD, sort of. Rav Shalom Shvadran always says, and I use this all the time, this idea, when you have a story in the middle of learning, you just say it, right? Like Hashem gave you a story, don't worry about it. You're in the middle of a sentence, you just go. This is exactly what happens here. Look how it works. He says, this is a question that we had. The Rebbe Avimi Tanim Menachos Be'Rav Chisda. Because Rebbe Avimi was learning Menachos, this Masechta, by Rav Chisda. Ask the Gemara, before we even go any further, Vavimi Be'Rav Chisda Tani? Avimi is the Rebbe. How's Avimi learning from his Talmud, Rav Chisda? Rav Chisda once said, Kulfei Tovei Bale, interesting words. I got beat up physically or verbally from Avimi, my Rebbe. Alada Shmaita. Because I forgot something in learning. The what? It says, Bola hachers ritzufim shloishim yoim. If the orphans have to pay back like a debt, and we want to take some of the inheritance and sell it so they can pay back the debt, we want them to get the highest price, most value for whatever they're selling. So what do? We announce it for 30 days, or we announce it for 60 days, Sheni v'chamishi, only on Mondays and Thursdays. So we do that for 60 days, it adds up to 18. Yeah? So the way you could understand it is, let's say if you're doing Chazara on Gemara, on anything, if you took this daf and you reviewed it 10 times in a row in one day, it would be much less effective than doing it like every other day or once a week. 5 times once a week is much better than 10 times in one day. So the same thing over here. If they announce it 30 days in a row, it's not as powerful as announcing it 18 times over the course of 60 days. So here we have this. Our weekend is actually Chayal. Here we go.
He always learned Daf Yomi. Always. He loved MDY so much. Truly, Kovea Itim for Torah.
Your father owes me money!
He passed away. We got nothing to pay you with. Sorry.
I love AI. You see how the truck goes up, and then it's going to be like the doors go this way.
Don't worry, guys. The Beis Din will sell off your Yerusha. And from that cash, I'm sure you'll cover the chav.
How's that gonna work?
We got two options: a 30-day hachraza or 60 yom on Mondays and Thursdays. That's 18 hachrazos. What'll it be, boys?
I don't understand.
The Yerusha gets sold at a public auction over a long time, and so the bidders multiply and the property fetches top price.
Happy Monday, folks. Man, anyone want to throw out a hidur? The guy in the coat? The boacher with the tie on the right? Reminder, this is your last shot to bid.
Gewaldig. That reminds me of the cuckoo clock my Zaide H had at home. I'll pay any price for it.
Hey, about your hub, talk to our secretary tomorrow. She'll hand you the cash.
Okay. Sometimes it's humorous, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just to show pshat. A little bit of both. Okay. Zog the Gemara. But now we're like smack in the middle of something. Rav Chisda got smacked by Avimi because he forgot this halacha. So you see, the Rav Chisda is actually the student. So the Gemara explains, so how is it possible that Avimi learned Menachos by Rav Chisda? Says the Gemara, Avimi Mesechta is Akra is Akerle. Avimi forgot the entire Mesechta of Menachos. V'asakamed Rav Chisda lat Kurei Gemara. He went to Rav Chisda to learn it. I thought it's fascinating. When Rav Chisda forgot a little pshat, he got a smack from him. And he forgot the entire Masechta. He didn't get beat up by Rav Chisda. He went to learn from Rav Chisda. Okay. So he goes to learn from him. As the Gemara, he's the Rebbe. You should tell Rav Chisda, come to me and teach me Masechtas Menachos. Savar, I think this is wonderful. This line right over here. Savar, by me going to Rav Chisda, embarrassing myself, walking over there, whatever it is, I'll have more hatzlacha in this learning. I think it's a tremendous insight in especially in Torah. Rashi says, Yigati u'motzasi. He brings Yigati u'motzasi. He brings Megillah Davav. The more you work for Torah, the more it's going to stay. Avimi felt that if he called, you could call him, say, hey, you're my Talmud, come here, teach it to me. I'll sit on my couch, and you'll just give it to me. No. By me going to him, which is hard, I don't know how far away he lived, but he went to him, Plus, it's embarrassing. Go to the Talmud. You have to sit there by a student and listen to him in front of everybody. L'pum tzara. So it's amazing. If you think about it, if you learn Torah when you are tired, when you're not in the right mood, you're sick, the value is that much more. I think that's why a lot of people, they say, oh, the previous generation, they were like this, the Goyim. I don't know. I always argued with people. I was always on the losing side. Omer Rabbeim always said, oh, last generation, they were geniuses. I personally find that hard to believe. I met a lot of people from last generation, they weren't so smart. So it's just 50 years ago, they were that much smarter. But one thing I will give, they used to go to yeshiva far from home, barely have anything to eat. They used to work on, what is it called? No, you know the word? Teg. It's called teg. They used to get a little food from here, a little food from there, sleep on the floor. They worked really hard for the Torah. And that's a big difference. Our generation, we're spoiled and we have everything, air-conditioned room, the whole thing. So I'm not saying it's about, that's what we have, that's what we do. But for Torah to stick more and it should be more powerful and accomplish more, it comes with a lot of hard work. And you see over here, it's not just learning it more, it's even going and coming, and all that is all part of it. Says the Gemara, Pogabei Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman bumps into Avimi. Amarlei Kitzah Kaimtzim. How do you do Kmitza? Amarlei Miklize. He points literally like here. You see that bowl right over there, like that. That's how you do Kmitza. Amarlei V'chi Kaimtzim Miklish Al Gavi Karka. Could I use something like that that's on the floor? Amarlei Demag V'lei Kain. No, I was saying that's a great kli. I didn't say like that on the floor. A kohen has to lift it. Okay, so Ketzah Mekachim Sam Menachos. Now I take the flour and I want to put it into a kli to make it. I brought from home. I brought a bag of flour. I want to put it in a kli. How do I do that? He put it here. He pointed to that kli. So you ask him, could you use something that's on the floor? No, the Magdalene Kain. We're talking, of course, that a Kain is holding it. Now it comes out that you need 3 Kohanim. You need 1 Kohen to hold the big Kli, another Kohen to stick his hand in and do Kmitza, and a 3rd Kohen to hold the 2nd Kli. Right? Because you take the Kmitza, you put it into a smaller vessel. So you need 3. So what's the big deal? So you have 3. But every morning and every afternoon in the Beis HaMikdash, 7 days a week, 365, they brought a Tamid. How many Kohanim do you need for that? You need 13. Okay, so big deal. So you have 3. Well, why is 3 such a big deal? When you take the Kmitza and you put it into the vessel, when you take the vessel of the Kmitza and you bring it to the Mizbech, putting it onto the Mizbech, that's the mission of Pigel. We're not going to go into it. That a Kohen, as he's doing one of these things, the essential avodas, he could have in mind that's going to eat it in 3 days from now. By doing so, he ruins it because that's Pigel. You could only eat it for a certain amount of time, not 3 days. But once you think about it, it's over. And if he would eat it, he would get kares for that. How come it says Kmitza, Moilech, Maktir? It doesn't say anything about the Kohen holding it. Says Gemara, I'll tell you why. Of course you have to hold it. Tana said avodas not God. Said the Kohanim. We're talking about the essential avodas. We're not talking about the lighter things like the Kohen holding it. This is the exact question that we just had until now. What's the halacha doing kmitza from a kli that's on the ground and the kohen is not holding it? Look what they do inside the Beis HaMikdash. When referring to the lechem apanim. So let me just show you this. This is cool. Our guys did this from scratch. In the heichal, there's something called the shulchan. And on the shulchan, we have 12 breads. These are the show breads that they put on Shabbos, and they eat it from Shabbos to Shabbos. It stays there for 7 days. And you can see there's 2, what do you call them? I don't know, kalim that have levina, frankincense. These 2 guys right over here. So now, what's the procedure. How do you take the breads off and how do you put the new breads on Shabbos? So it says, Arba kohanim nechnasim, shnayim biyadam shnei zdarim. Each kohen holds 6 breads. So that's 2 kohanim holding 6 breads, that's 12 breads. Ushnayim biyadam shnei bezichim. And 2 other kohanim hold the 2 bezichim, which contain the levina. We actually have it over here. Something like this. You can see the 2 kohanim holding 6 breads back there. So 4 remove everything, and 4 put it back on. Just a dumb joke. It's not even a joke, but it just reminded me, so I'm going to say it. They're talking about 4 people in Chelm. You know Chelm, right? Chelm is the geniuses, the world's geniuses in Chelm. So when it snowed, they all went out and they wanted to see the snow, but they were very annoyed that the gabbai that woke them up to tell them that the snow, that his footprints were everywhere. So they came up with a genius idea that they're going to put him on a chair and they're going to carry him. And like this, his footsteps won't be in the snow. I just thought it's... Oh, so now in this process right over here, right, these guys, not this one right over here, when you have the 8 people taking the bread, putting the bread, how come it doesn't mention about another 2 people lifting up the table? It doesn't say anything that you have to lift the table. Isn't it similar to kmitza where a kohen has to hold the kli while you're doing the kmitza? Shouldn't kohanim have to hold the table while they put the bread in? And Rashi explains that the bezichen, those spoonfuls of levina, is what allows the kohanim to eat from the bread. So they're the mater. It's what we call a mater. When you burn those, then you're able to eat the bread. It's the same thing, says Rashi, when it comes to kmitza. When I go like this, I put my hand in there, take 3, then allows the kohanim to eat the rest of the flour. So they're similar. So the Gemara says, you're right, maybe a kohen does have to hold it. So Rashi says over here something interesting. If I can find it. Says Rashi, the reason why it's not mentioned, maybe, says Rashi, or explaining the Gemara, the reason why lifting the table is not so important, it wasn't part of it, because it's not an avodah chashuva. It's an avodah, but not an important one, so it's not on the list. But maybe in a chanami, a kohen does have to lift up the table. Says Gemara, oh, wait a minute. On Amud Aleph, when we said that's not part of the list because we're only talking about avodah, we're not talking about the kohanim. Great. Over here, we're counting how many kohanim there are. You're going through numbers. There's 8. 4 do this, 4 do that. Don't you think if there's a 9th kohen lifting the table, shouldn't you mention him? Imisa, listen to Magbia. You see that you can do kmitza when the kli is on the karka, on the ground, on the table. You don't need a kohen to hold it. And that's how we started off the sugya. Amar Rava. Yeah, shkoyach. Who told you?
I mean, I watched the show.
A lot of people have a dream to tell me this. Turning to the daf, Adar Global, don't worry, it's only 3 short ones. Special experts in international payments, Encore Healthcare, Anonymous, the murder of Phil Kaimov, doing the daf, thank you again. Amarava, 6 lines from the top. Shitali, Kaim to Mikli, Shalgabi Karka. This we already established, it's so simple that if the bowl of flour is on the floor, on a table, the kohen could do the kmitza, you don't need another kohen to hold it. Why? We already proved it from the shulchan, that there's nobody lifting the table over there, and they took off the frankincense from the shulchan without a kohen holding it. Next, when I go home and I bring a bag of flour from my pantry, and I bring it to the Beis HaMikdash, I need to make it kaddish. Even though I say, by the way, when I say that this bag of flour is going to be a mincha, so it does become kaddish a little bit, it becomes Kedushas Bedek Habayis. I want to make it really kaddish. I need to put it into a klisharis. So how do I do that? Because I could put it into klisharis that's on the ground. A kohen doesn't have to be holding it. We find the same thing about the shulchan. You take the breads, you put it into the shulchan. A kohen doesn't have to be holding it. By Rava, but there's something that I don't know. Kiddush kohen etzmai. What's the process again? There's a large bowl. I put my hand in the large bowl, take 3 fingers worth, and put it into the small bowl. That small bowl, does a kohen have to hold it or not? What's the question? Do I learn it from the rest of the things of mincha we just established? I could do the kmitza, and I could put the flour even though the bowl is on the ground. So too, the second bowl could be on the ground. Or did I learn from blood? We had the whole last Masechtas Zvachim is talking all about this. That when the kohen in the Beis Hamikdash shechs the animal, blood comes squirting out of the neck. You have to grab the blood with a klisharis. It has to go into klisharis, and that blood is the final avodah. You bring it to the mizbech and you sprinkle it on the mizbech. That a kohen has to be holding. You can't have a kli sitting on the ground grabbing the blood. A kohen has to be holding the kli. That we learn from psukim. So the question is, and what is the question? I wish I had this, but I don't. I mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. This process of taking kmitza from flour mimics a carbon. A carbon has 4 avodas: shchita, kabbalah, receiving the blood; halacha, moving the blood to the mizbech; zrika, pouring the blood on the mizbech. So too, by a kmitza, we have the mincha. We have the kmitza, which is similar to shchita. We have you taking that kmitza, putting it into a small vessel. That's kabbalah. That's like receiving the blood. Kabbalah. Then the kohen takes that small vessel, moves it to the mizbeach. That's halacha. Then he puts it on the mizbeach. That's aktara. That's like zrika aktara. So hadar pashta midam yalfinan. So this idea of putting the kmitza into a bowl is similar to Kabbalah of dam. And dam, we know that a kohen has to be holding the kli when he receives the blood. So too, the kmitza. As the Gemara, the Rava really say this. This kmitza, he takes flour with 3 fingers. He puts 1.5 fingers worth in one vessel, 1.5 fingers worth in another vessel. Is that good? Rava says it's good. The problem is, if Rav is the one who compares the putting of the kmitza into the small vessel, like the blood, receiving the blood in the small vessel, he should learn from blood, and by blood you can't put half and half. You need to put all the blood into one vessel. Says the Gemara, you're right. He says that when he agrees to Rav Nachman that if you put a kmitza half and half into 2 kelim, it's no good. He regretted that. How do you know that you can't make blood kaddish halfway? You put half of the blood in one kli and half in another kli. This is by the para aduma. So, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, I don't know if I have the whole thing, but so here's the para aduma, the red heifer. The only way to become tahar after going to a funeral, touching a dead person, is by getting sprinkled by the water that's mixed in with the ashes of this para aduma. And to make a lot of ashes, they put a lot of wood. That's why there's a whole pile of wood over here. So he says like this: Kiddush, pachas mikdei azah b'kli zeh, or pachas mikdei azah b'kli zeh, like Kiddush. This is a little bit of an exaggeration, but what they would do is they would take the hyssopes here, and they would dunk it into the paraduma water. It's mixed water. It's not that violent, but yeah. And they would spray the guy with the. So now what happens? There's more? Uh-oh. What happens if this kli doesn't have enough water? You have to use 2 kalim. I had enough of that. So, like Kiddush, You see, by the paraduma, it doesn't work. You need to put all the water into one vessel. What about the chatos, the inner chatos they do on Yom Kippur, let's say? What about blood? Everything about the paraduma we know is halacha. It's a halacha. That's it. There's no. The halacha Moshe Messina tells us you have to do it so, and you can't learn anything else from it. Or perhaps no. By paraduma it says the word v'tava b'mayim, and it teaches us that you have to have enough water. You can't use two different vessels. It has to all be in one. So too by blood, it says the same wording. So mela, I would know that you can't use two vessels. It has to be in one. No, you should know that if you have, this is how we know it, that at the end of the day, if you put the blood, the Kabbalah Sadam, you did it in two different vessels, it's not considered a good Kabbalah Sadam. Amarava, Tayin Namehachi, Vetaval, Veloi Misapik. Misapik is, there's a good friend of mine. He used to come to my shir. He still does. Hope he doesn't get mad at me. I have sensory issues. Like the sound, different things bother me. So he used to sit right next to me back in the day. And in the middle of shir, he would open up a yogurt, open it, and then he would lick the cover. And like in the middle of shir, dude. And then at the end, he would put his finger, go around the top. Yeah. So anyway, I hope he's meichel me. That's misapig. B'taval, when the kohen, here, let me show you the kohen doing. In the heichal, on Yom Kippur we say achas v'achas. So that's this right over here. He takes blood, dunks his finger in the blood, and pours it on the floor, 7 in a row. Now, we're going to be talking about it. You cannot do misapig. You can't do this. You can't take from the blood that's on the edges. You got to stick it right into the blood. Badam, shi'abadam, shir tefillah mikara. You have to have all the 7 drops of blood in that one vessel. You can't have one vessel that has 3 drops and the other vessel 4. That doesn't work. All of them have to be in one. Min adam shebe'inyan. What does that mean? We'll see in a second. It says you need both. Oh, we're doing well on time. The Kasar Rachmana v'Tava. Where are you guys from? Where are you from? New Jersey. Wait a minute. You got Levi today? You got an Aliyah today? No. Not you?
No, someone else.
Somebody else. Okay. You're in Shul. I saw you somewhere. Where did I see you? Where? Oh, okay. So I saw you in Shul. Okay, good. I knew I saw you. Badam shebadam shir tefillah meikara. I gotta say it again, just in case, because a lot of people they won't even watch the emails. Yeah, I get them. Real quickly, we had a guy, Nathan Zucker, Delta pilot. Did you hear that, or you came after that? Delta pilot who watches the shir for almost 6 years, and he announces on the PA system, "This is your pilot, the clouds, whatever," and he always sticks in when he flies, only when he flies from Jewish locations like JFK, he sticks in the daf. So I said, he says, today's daf is Menachos daf ches. So what are the non-Jews? He says, they don't even hear it. It's like, eh. And then he said that he'll do he'll say there's a siyum, mazel tov to all the people that make a siyum. And then a guy just came over to him the other day and said that he's going to start the daf because he announced it. He says, a pilot announcing it? He came after the flight was over, he walked by. Now I just remembered another story. Gishmaki's story, a guy comes over to me, he says, you want to hear Eli Stefansky story? I said, yeah. He doesn't do the shir. He said he was in Romania, and he was in an Uber, and he's minding his own business. The driver turns around and says, are you Jewish? And he says, yeah. He says, you remind me of Eli Stefansky. The guy told it to me today. All right. I forgot to get his name. You know what I'm talking about? I think you were actually there when he was telling me the story. We were standing by the door.
Oh, no, I left.
You left, okay. By the entrance to the shop. Fine. Next. We need both words, to dunk and blood. Because Rahman of a Taval, that you have to dunk your finger in there. I would think that even if you don't have enough blood for all 7, because Rahman of Adam, you need in that one vessel, you need all 7 sprinkles. Because Rahman of Adam, I feel misapik. I think that you could go around like this, like the yogurt. Because Rahman of a Taval, no, you have to dunk it in there. What does it mean? We read these words, but we didn't understand what it meant. Min adam shebe'inyan. What does that mean? It's interesting. Shiraim shebe'etzba means that when you put your finger into the blood and you sprinkle, you think that you could go again. You have enough blood to do it a second time. No. In fact, and I saw in the art scroll, but not in our Gemara, so I have to ask my chavrusa why not in our Gemara. The art scroll says you have to wipe your finger down every time between dipping in. That's what the art scroll says. I don't know where they got it from. I don't see it in Rashi. In our Gemara, our translation doesn't have it. But if it's true they have to wipe it down, it's a problem. We should put it in there. Because basically what the art scroll is saying is that once you dip your finger in and you sprinkle, now everything left on your finger is no good. Yeah, I guess it's like on the side of the kli, where you're dipping it in and you're using the new blood, but it's underneath. Kitzer, he says you got to wipe your finger down. It might fit into the sugya coming up. Talmidim said in the name of Rav Amram, Tanya, again, we're talking about the inner chatas. And this is an interesting halacha we discussed a lot in Zvachim. And that is, if some of the blood from the carbon goes on the kohen's garment, there's a chiyuv to wash it. You must wash the garment. So he says, he was in the middle of doing the hazah and it got on his garment. Imagine he's a ton kibos. If it's before he did any of the sprinkles, you have to wash your garment. But once he's done, ain't ton kibos. It's not right anymore, so you don't have to wash the clothing. But let's understand. It says, my lav actually gomar zasai. What does it mean? There's two types. That he finished completely. There's before he finished and after he finished. Oh, you see from here that if he didn't finish, then the shiraim on the finger are good enough to continue on. Why are you telling me you can't continue? Why are you telling me you have to dunk in every single time? So the Gemara says, it means we're talking about each individual sprinkle. You could break it down to 7 different sprinkles. On each and every one, you dunked your finger in, and then it got your clothing dirty. Then you have to wash your clothing. Once you went like this, you sprinkled it on that individual one, then you don't have to wash your clothing. The way it worked is, they would take their hand and wipe their hand down on the paraduma. Why? Because later on, they're going to burn the entire paraduma. Like so. Let's see. I think we have it over here. So we want everything to be burned, including all the blood that's left over. We burn it. How do you burn it? The kind goes, it's kind of nasty. Take the bloody hand and go like this on the para. I'll tell you why I think it's nasty. I'll show you in a second. I don't know if you ever tried it. I didn't, but I'm assuming to myself, if your hand is full of blood and go like this on a cow, what's going to happen? You're going to end up full of like cow hair and all sorts of stuff. You're worse off doing that. So he says, seems like dafka when you're completely finished, but if not, you don't wipe your hand down. No, you're right. It's a good deal what you just said, because it seems like in between fingers, you could continue doing sprinkles from fingers. No, if you finished, wipe your hand down on the cow. But if you didn't finish completely, you must wash your finger down, like we were saying, that you have to wipe your finger down. I mean, maybe that's where the Arshul got it from, right over here. You have to wipe your finger off in between each and every. So it's a good cash on our Gemara. Our new official edition Gemara I think it should have said, if that's the case, that you have to wipe your finger down, It should have been in the pshat. Says Gemara, I understand why you have to wipe your hand down on the cow. You should burn the cow. So Rashi says something very interesting. How are you going to wipe your finger down? Says Rashi, because you're not by the cow. The cow is down there, you're on top. Seems like you're doing the sprinkles in a different place, says Rashi. So I'm going to make you go in between each one. You have to do 7 sprinkles. You're going to go up and down the mountain. This is Har HaZeisim, right? Where do you do this? This right over here is on Har HaZeisim, facing the Heichel, the door of the Heichel. So I'm going to make you go up and down. We in Zvachim had a different pshat. Rashi said a different pshat. So he says if you're going to wipe your finger on the cow, it's going to look like this. Kids, you're going to get your finger all dirty. And then they skip over here. Amar Abaya, B'sfas Mizrag. How do you clean your? You're right. You don't wipe it down on the cow. You wipe it down on the vessel, on the edge of the vessel. Kifayr is of. Kifayr is a lashon of wiping it down. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.